All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Wednesday, September 14th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time at this time of the day. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Great to see Mark and Nicholas and Leda still with us here. Great to see Robert from before and Jason as well. Jason, great to have Jason here. Jason locked up a nice trade on the what was it, the MEGL? No, it was the AMTD. Just a moment ago, we got 20 cents on it from entry price 202. So great to see Jason and John and Jeff and Ron and Michael. Great to see all of us back on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube. So folks, let's hop into things pretty quickly here. Market has gone much of anywhere today, but really we've had a bunch of different runners spring up throughout some points of the day here, throughout the morning, heading into right now. So MEGL being one of them. We ended up seeing this stock make a huge pop for us back a week or two ago. Not even this pop and drop here. It was after that. It was actually when I was first moving to Florida from New York. I ended up seeing it make a big pop for you folks back then. And then a little bit later on, saw like a little move up here, a nice little day trade at the time. Now it's making a pretty nice run here this afternoon. So for right now, MEGL, just easily enough, I'll just put on our watch list here to begin. I would assume your next resistance would be off of 7. There was a pretty big iceberg order off of 650 that ended up finally getting broken through earlier. It took a while for it to move off that 650 area or level, but it's doing so now. So I would look to see what happens here coming off of 7 next on this trade. All right, so MEGL being one of the stocks that we're running or are still running for us right now. The AMTD trade is another one of those that we ended up doing really well on back like a month ago, a few weeks back. Actually, I want to jump back to this day here. This was August 2nd. We ended up seeing AMTD make this enormous move up, and then it completely crashed back down. So the daily chart looks horrible. The daily chart looks really bad, right? So I just want to bring this up here pretty briefly. Don't mind doing it. Just go back in the old time machine here for right now. And for AMTD, we ended up seeing this thing make an enormous run, even beginning from, I think it was the after hours the night before. Stock went from 2 to 7. So you see that in the after hours, and you assume that the next morning it's going to make for a nice day trade, whether it continues and then dumps off, or whether we end up seeing support build first and then the real pop. So we ended up seeing this make a beautiful run early the following morning in pre-market. Stock went from like 650-ish here, ended up running up as high as like 14 and came back down. So, we've had a lot of fun on this AMTD trade. This stock, whatever news came out, it was an affiliate stock to this one here, HKD. And the stock made an even bigger move percentage-wise on that day. It ended up going from like $100 all the way up to like 2,500. Crazy move, right? This stock was basically untradeable back then on August 2nd, and we ended up doing a lot better. And we really just traded the AMTD. So we did phenomenal on the AMTD back then. All right. Well, if we happen to see these stocks make, a move up, if they pop up on our gainers list, if it's making a high of the day, obviously we're going to look to follow up with it, right? If these stocks can make a fraction of the type of run that they made back in early August, I'll take it. So on this one, pretty briefly, I do want to show bookmap. I do want to show level 4 for this trade. So basically what happened with the AMTD from earlier heading into the mid-morning, we had a bunch of volume get filled right off of 147 and 148. I think it was a total of 50,000 shares. I was doing a little back-end data, actually for a webinar that Fausto is doing tomorrow with Bookmap. But, 50,000 shares in total that were filled at 147 and at 148. It made this pop and drop. So from that point, you look to take your eyes off it for a little bit. It might just totally dump off and just you lose sight with it. Well, we ended up seeing the stock move back up later on into the early afternoon. It was holding under the VWAP and holding under that same resistance. So on the next break of that price, we ended up seeing it launch. Ended up making this big squeeze up right from there. That's what led to this rally here at this point. So yeah, for the meantime, the AMTD trade we're going to put on our watch list with the MEGL. Looks like it's trying to bounce back up from big volume area right off of 195, 196-ish. I feel like over time, though, again, these are not swing trade recommendations or call outs. These are day trade exclusively. that means that I'm led to believe that we're going to see the AMTD trade completely dump off later on. I mean, just look what happened to HKD a moment ago here. It got halted 3 times on the way up. And I wrote that in the chat board earlier before this meeting started. And I was saying it got halted 3 times up. I am pretty certain that we're going to see this get halted on the way down. And maybe like a couple minutes later, it ended up dropping off, completely tanking. And yeah, I mean, this stock at least you could use as like a guide, shadow for the AMTD trade. If you happen to see HKD make a huge shakedown or big drop, you're led to believe that AMTD is going to do the exact same thing. So, AMTD, I'm going to put on our list. The HKD, no. But if you want to follow the AMTD trade, then use the HKD as like, almost like an ETF for the stock because, they move pretty similar. All right. So we already talked about 3 of the top 4 gainers so far on the watch list. The other 2 in the top 5 are below like 50 cents even. So we're going to skip over those. The SPRC trade, I mean, I'll show you the chart. It's definitely flat right now. It's kind of dropping off, not necessarily even flat, but it ended up making its big move from earlier today from pre-market, and then certainly after the market opened up, we did really well on this SPRC trade. We ended up seeing support hold off the VWAP on a couple of different attempts here, and 125 big pre-market top level. So it led to a couple of different trades, a couple of different entries on the stock. All right, we keep it going. Probably going to find a couple of other, like, quote unquote runner stocks that made these pops recently. A couple of them might be low volume, so you want to skip over those should they be. Here, the ATXG trade. I mean, I have no idea what the hell happened to this thing. It actually shows daily chart activity, although there's no like data or activity here to see. But my chart wouldn't show this if this was a new IPO back from this day here. So it's a little odd to see that. But nonetheless, this stock had a huge pop and then drop right back down. Hey, it's kind of similar to what I just showed you, kind of similar to the MEGL stock, right? And look at the MEGL right now. So AXTG here, ATXG, my dyslexia. Yep, there we go. ATXG here ended up making a big pop and drop, like I guess a week ago or 2. But look at the intraday right now. It's moving back up pretty nicely, holding a series of higher lows. You want to see it make a big break of resistance and for it to really fly and run, right? It's been more of a grinder off the lows and kind of just with this trend it's been building. But, it's hard to ignore the ATXG. RYTM was the stock we ended up trading a number of like months ago. I guess at this point, we ended up doing really well on this trade back in July. It was so I took my eyes off on this, my eyes off from the stock since, and it's been holding strong for a little while and just broke out here today. So nice move here for the RYTM. Not at all-time highs, that's for sure. I'd say performing pretty nicely really since July, but yeah, as a day trade, it's not really moving too well. It's near the highs, but it's not trading any good volume here right now for us. Only about like 2,000 shares at that. So let's see what else is out there. JZ, another IPO you can say recently from like a month ago, ended up making a big pop and then drop right back down. Very similar trend here. All right, so we'll put this one on our watch list. Looks pretty good. You do have a big iceberg order on the ask here. It looks like it came in after it broke above 450, so it made this pop up, hit a high at 456, and then we ended up seeing this big iceberg join the ask. Had to have been at 450. Had the BIAF trade from earlier today. That was a great run from pre-market. Then after the market opened up, thankfully, although it was dropping off quite a bit, ended up holding support pretty nicely, led to a big breakback over its opening print and led to this huge rally from that point. Afterwards, I wrote it off. So even though it bounced back up a bit here, I wasn't in the trade at this point. Ended up doing a good job, even holding over 6 for a little while. But then out of nowhere, I mean, really just out of nowhere, ended up hitting 650 and coming right back down. So obviously at this stage, looks like a much better short than a long if you're able to get shares. There's definitely a lot more on this gainer side here, folks. So if there's anything else that looks really good, type it in the chat board now. Definitely let me know in advance. Got Sun W, familiar name from like a year ago or two. Ended up making a big pot for us about a year ago. It's moving up a little bit here today. Not really trading a whole lot of volume per minute right now. So much like there was another one. It was the RYTM. Not really trading a whole lot of volume right now this time of the day. So we'll pass over it. What is this? Not Hello Fresh, but Fresh Works. Ended up making a nice move up today, but again, same story. Not trading a lot of volume right now, and we want to follow big money, right? Like we saw in Jay Z. At least there's a pretty recognizable resistance there at that 650 level, I believe that was. Hey, for the CFVI stock, we've done really well on this over the last week or two, on and off. We've called this one out. It's trading a little bit more volume per minute. The order book actually isn't as filled in, as liquid. So for a stock like this, that's not trading a whole lot of volume per minute still, I'd rather be more inclined to follow this compared to the others. So, this one will make the cut. Had Nikola from pre-market. I was hopeful to see Nikola make a much better move than it even made here today. This stock eventually will lead to another big short squeeze like it's been doing like sporadically over the last couple of years. We've been following this over the last year and a half with all the stuff that happened with their CEO, Trevor Milton, I think his name was. But, there was some huge scandal that happened, and that was after the run up that it had. So this is made for a huge pump and then, drop right back down. Actually, today it's looking all right still at this point, but this is where we talk about volume traded per minute, liquidity. I wish this was less liquid because it would make for a lot easier of a pump back up. So Nikola, I'll put on our watch list for right now, just a familiar stock that a lot of us have done well on in the past. All right, so that just about wraps up the gainer side here. Again, if there's anything else that looks good, just let me know right now. But I'll hop over to the loser side next. This point, I was wondering where ALT stood on the loser side because of how much it ran up after the open. So let's just jump to that here. The ALT trade, talk about a dead cat bounce. I mean, it was down 50 to 60% early in pre-market, but when we put this on our watch list, the question was then, how much higher could this really recover? How much, could this really move up higher towards? Well, we had our answer. Ended up making a beautiful slingshot after the market opened up, pulled back to pre-market levels, but ended up taking off very shortly afterwards. So once you happen to see that slingshot, you're led to believe, all right, probably see this break higher highs, continuation for a little bit. But I wasn't expecting for this to run all the way up as high as 1660. If anything, I was expecting 14 to be that big point of resistance. And then from there, it was grinding above that. I took a few different losses on shorts, trying to short it from 14, and I'm just not getting anything out of it. So it just kept pushing up and up and up. Hell, even right now, just zoom in right now. This thing's starting to make a pop back over 15 here. It might have some more legs left to it. So ALT, I'll put this back on our watch list for right now, just in case if this looks to make one more, run back up. But otherwise, be careful. If this is a false, breakout here, a head fake, and if it comes right back down below 15 and holds under there, most importantly, then you could expect more of a drop off here from this stage. So, we're going to keep this on our radar. Let's see what happens right off of 15 right now. Had the stock YOSH. Invalid symbol even. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. I thought that was on the gainer side to begin the day even. Cold, KOLD, hey, natural gas ETF ended up dropping off early in pre-market. I told you folks, hey, for anyone that consistently does well on this stock or on this ETF, then this is definitely the one for you. Especially if you have level 4. If you don't have Bookmap or level 4 as we nickname it, then it's going to be a lot harder to trade. I'd rather you trade a stock, a publicly traded company first. But hey, right now this took a huge hit from the morning. Only has been dropping off. So yeah, at this point, we'll put this on our watch list here. See what happens off of 10. That AMTD trade's really crashing down right now, folks. That's down to like the VWAP price off of 183, 182. It could be due for a bounce from there, but it took a huge fall or a huge hit, as we started the meeting. All right, we got our X, our U.S. Steel. Wasn't showing a lot of activity early in pre-market, but hey, it led to a big drop-off shortly after the market opened up, and it looks really good here as a short right now. So it's hard to ignore X. We got a really good watch list right now, folks, not just with stocks going up on the way up, but some really good shorts on Cold and X at least, and then maybe on the ALT if that decides to break back under 15. All right, so folks, let me know if there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you'd want me to look at here before we wrap up. You probably could have told within the first few minutes, but I ended up doing this waterless. I didn't get my water bottle here with me today. Joining late from Doug, he says, not sure if you went over it already, but ATXG, we did. It's already on our watch list there, but it's a great stock to look at for right now, Doug. ILAG from Yehuda. I forgot about that one. That's right. ILAG, very similar to MEGL and those IPOs that ended up getting hammered right out the gate. I mean, not just for the fact that it's pulling back here, but it was looking a little spotty prior. It's a good sideless stock for right now. If this shows strength over the next 15, 20 minutes, then we'll look to follow up with it. Hopefully it doesn't pop too much higher from that point, though. Hey, for right now, even MEGL is making this shake here too. I bet you Jay-Z made that shake then. Ooh, no, I was wrong. Jay-Z, at least not yet, still holding strong. Looks like it dipped down a little bit, but now it made a really nice slingshot back up to test that 450 and the iceberg order that's sitting there. Just checking Benzinga Pro lastly here, folks, seeing if there's anything else that's looking pretty good. Looks like we covered them already. Jay-Z, ATXG, and that's it. That's all I got. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up for right now. For all of us on Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you folks sticking with me each and every day. And for the last couple of days throughout the morning and afternoon, I believe Fausto should be back in his normal seat come tomorrow morning. But if you're interested in joining our live trading room, feel more than free to click the link on the banner below, on the yellow banner below the stream right there to get yourself started. If you have any questions prior to or as you continue to join us here live, feel more than free to email myself, josh@ctutrading.com. I always like to post my email at the end of these streams. Mark, I'm going to fill up on water before we do our coaching call coming up at 3 o'clock, but I look forward to that, and I look forward to chatting back with all of us here later on at 3:30. Take care.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it.